right, here we go. Please welcome to the stage, Pierce Ujjainwalla. I say Ujjain, you say? Ujjain! Ujjain! Yes!
Amazing. Thank you so much, Anne. Yes. Give it up for Anne Hanley. Unbelievable. And Anne, great job on my name. It actually took me until grade 3 to be able to say that, so you did an awesome job there. Thank you, everybody. So excited to be here, and it feels surreal. I have been a B2B marketer my entire career, and I actually started at a company called Cognos, and Cognos had an office in the Boston area in Lexington. And some really smart people that I work with recommended I should read Anne Hanley's book called Content Rules. And I was so grateful that they did that for me because it really was foundational in me in my marketing career. And so, very surreal. Thanks so much for having us. Today I want to talk about creativity. I think Anne gave some incredible examples of creativity with Honey Bun and how they name things, and you know, we love the idea of Easter eggs and the subtlety and the intrigue. At Knak, we're marketing to marketers, which is not always easy because I think, as we all know as marketers, we like to really dig in and look, and we can smell the BS pretty quickly. So what I want to give everyone today is a 4-step framework that will help you be more creative. So to start, I want to start with this. This is actually a painting of the oldest known painting in the world. It was actually painted 64,000 years ago. We thought COVID was a long time. That's really long. And so I started doing some research into this, and it was 64,000 years. I didn't even know humans existed back then. And then I got into the Google rabbit hole of Neanderthals and learned a lot there. But for this, let's all put ourselves in the shoes of a Neanderthal. And I did Google that, and they did have shoes. So back in these days, the status quo for a Neanderthal was that they were hunting and gathering. They were in survival mode. The last thing that they were thinking about was like, hey, I should paint something on my wall. And I think that is what creativity really is. It's about creating something new, something unique, something that has never been done before. And so, if you think this Neanderthal really bucked the status quo, which was to spend time hunting and gathering, he was there, or she was trying to figure out, how do I make like technology, the paint or the paintbrush? And this required an incredible amount of courage. Like, I can only imagine if I painted a red goat in my bedroom wall, my wife would kill me. So, yeah, we're going to come back to this, but I think it was a really good example. So, Anne talked a lot about this, about creativity and how we can connect with our audience. Humans actually now have a shorter attention span than a goldfish. It's less than 10 seconds. And we all here in the room know that we're getting bombarded with more ads and more noise than ever before. So how do you stand out? I think that is about creativity. If you look at this, this is one of the first advertisements ever made. It was found in Pompeii. You guys are probably looking at it like, that's not very creative. But back then it was. Nobody was, writing stuff on the wall. And so as we as marketers evolve, and we have to create something new. And for those of you who don't speak emoji, This says, engage the shit out of your mobile users. And so I want everyone to think, if you were in the boardroom at Lean Plum putting this ad together, and I actually am good friends with Joyce Solano, who was the CMO there at the time, and she told me, people were nervous about putting this billboard out. They were scared. The media company was nervous about doing it too. They didn't want to damage their reputation. And it would have been super easy for Joyce to just say, let's just do the safe thing. That's going to be easier. But she pushed forward. She had courage. And as a result of this billboard, they had 20% more site visits and a 15% increase in traffic of candidacy who wanted to work there. And what was amazing, I'm well aware I'm talking to a group full of marketers here, but the idea for this billboard didn't even come out of the marketing department. It came from their product team. So I think when we think about creativity, we don't have to put all of that on our backs. There's some incredibly creative people in your companies, and it's hard to know where that creativity is going to come from unless you really tap into that. So at Knak, what we do twice a year is we get everybody in the company to create memes. That we spend 2 hours, everybody creates memes. And here are some that we came up with, and none of these were made by the marketing team. We have developers, our CTO created one, and so creativity is everywhere, and it's really up to you to tap into it. So I talked a little bit about how Joyce had that courage, and I think it does take that courage to be creative. In Anne's example, you have to dig in a little bit. It's not the obvious thing. There's that Easter egg there. And a lot of people might say, well, what if they don't find it? Shouldn't we just have a big thing in front of them? But I think that's the way to connect with humans. And so I can't do a creativity keynote without talking about Steve Jobs. He's definitely someone that I really looked up to. And Apple, one of the most creative companies in the world. But for this, I want to talk just about Steve's uniform. So the black turtleneck, the dad jeans, the dad shoes, shout out New Balance. But, what I find amazing about this is that at this time, especially, every corporate executive wore, the suit and tie. But Steve, I'm sure there were lots of people at Apple saying, you can't do that. What are people going to think about us? But he didn't listen to them. And number two, and I think this is very inspiring for everybody here, Steve, he didn't have to get neck tattoos or face tattoos or dye his hair pink. He just had to wear a black turtleneck and jeans. The bar is so low in B2B, okay? And we just have to jump a little bit over it. I was just at SaaStr a couple weeks ago, and I saw Ben Chestnut, who's the founder of MailChimp. They just sold their company for $12 billion. And they have a monkey in their logo. In the early days, a lot of big companies were nervous about working with them. But again, he just said, let's do it anyway. And things turned out pretty well for him. Okay, let's talk about the status quo. How many people here at work, like, oh, well, that's just the way we've always done things. And like, we just do it that way, I don't know. And this is what happens at a lot of companies. You know, something was put in place before, and it can be hard to change the way of doing things. And so, but is this not just leading us all to create things that look the same, that aren't actually creative at all? Let's look at some logos here. Not a lot of creativity anymore. If you look before, you know, everyone had a bit of their own personality. Now it's just sea of the same. And it's not just logos. If we look at things that we see around us, you know, they're losing that character, the beauty, the thing that made them creative. And I have a theory about this. I really think that, especially in B2B, we're all about scale. We're all about proficiency. It's got to scale. We have to do it faster. We have to be efficient. But is that not the exact opposite of being creative? When being creative is about creating something new, something that hasn't existed before. And we work with customers every day where this is what they are meant to be creative with. And I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but I don't find that very inspiring. So I want to share a story. I want to share a story about why, you know, the title is Why Creativity, the Surprising Role. Why is it surprising? So I used to do a lot of consulting with Marketing. And I still bleed purple, love the Marketing community. And Marketing brought me on to one of their biggest enterprise customers. This is like a Fortune 50 company. They had all of their best consultants, there's like 20 of us on this one account, setting up this system. It was so complicated. There was so many processes and nurtures and scoring and all this stuff. They spent like a year implementing it. And then I came in, I said, well, let's actually see what like the email looks like or the landing page. Really the only thing that those prospects or customers are ever going to see. And it looked like total garbage. Like they had just completely overlooked it. It was just an afterthought. Yeah, like whatever, we're going to send this thing. So I think that there is so much focus on the technology, on the process, on the scale that sometimes we forget what the customers and the prospects are actually going to see. So I run a tech company. I can't not talk about technology. Maybe I'm a little bit biased. But if you look at history, from the time that we had print to websites to mobile to now we're getting into AR and VR, the companies that embrace technology to be creative always win. And I want to share this artwork. It's a beautiful piece of art done by a guy named Jason Allen. And he, as you can see with that ribbon there, he just won the Colorado State Fair for the category under digital artwork. And the amazing part about this piece of art is that he didn't even make that. He used an AI generator to make that. And the reporter asked him, how long did that take you? He said, about 10 seconds. And I bring this up not to scare everyone, not to say, oh, AI is going to take over our jobs, because I don't believe that is the case at all. I think that since the beginning of time, humans have been the best at connecting with other humans. And Jason, he still had to type in a huge block of text for it to make that image. And that's where all of us come in. We are going to use the new technologies, just like we always have, to be creative and to connect with our audiences. Yeah, so this is me when I had a bit of a Justin Bieber haircut going on. At my first job, my first marketing job. And I want to just wrap up by sharing my own story and how I use the framework to be creative. So in university, I'm from Canada. I haven't said A. Oh yeah, some other Canadians, right on. I'm watching my A's whenever I'm in the US. Right? Yeah, that's a... So I was never like the best student in school. I just was kind of going to get my degree, get the piece of paper. But I remember when I took my first marketing course and I found that passion of like, oh, I can actually use my creativity in a job and get paid for it. And my first job, like I mentioned, was at a company called Knak, which was bought by IBM. And I came in there, I was so excited, I had so many ideas. But then I kind of met the status quo. And the status quo for me was that these emails were all code. And I didn't know how to code. And I didn't really want to learn how to code. But I didn't just kind of like say, okay, that's just how it is. I'm going to just leave it that way. You know, I eventually started a company. It would have been a lot easier probably to just learn HTML, but but I think, you know, it took some courage. I had to leave a safe, secure job, and nothing against IBM. I met some amazing people and learned so much from them, but it wasn't for me. I couldn't use my creativity. I went on to a few other startups and then eventually started Knak, and that's where this technology piece comes in for me today. I'm so, you know, excited every day that I get to help marketers be more creative because, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I feel like I got into marketing to be creative and to use that creativity. And there's a lot of things in our way to be creative, so I'm happy to be able to unblock even in just one of those. So I'd like to leave everybody today with this one thing. I think creativity is your superpower. So don't let anything, whether it's process, the status quo, or fear, be your kryptonite. Thank you so much. I'd love to connect with everybody. Hit me up on Twitter, or feel free to email me, or come by the Knak booth. We have a barista at our booth, so if you want awesome coffee, come check that out. And all those books that you guys have, Anne talked about clams or Easter eggs. There is actually one in there. See if you can find it. And she's going to also be signing the books at the Knak booth today at 6:30. So come by, get your Knak booth, your books signed, and thank you so much.